have been having a bout with flu, with bad throat, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to meet you all. So I said, let me talk till my throat protests. I hope it won't. To continue about the obstructions posed by the vital. I mentioned to you on one of the earlier occasions how mother found it most difficult to stand the vibration of righteous indignation. Righteous indignation is when you assume a superior status and expose somebody's wrongdoings with a vengeance. She said that was the most difficult vibration she had to stand. In my own way, the kind of vibration that I find it difficult and I have been unable to overcome all these years is the ego of the sadhak. A sadhak, he feels superior. You do your sadhana, it's a matter between you and the divine. But that should not lead you to look down upon others with the feeling that these people are wasting their time. What are they here for? Look, I have been spending so much time, taking so much trouble. I'm all the while in sadhana. I am the sadhak. These people are not. They are wasting mother's time. Now this attitude, the egohood of a sadhak, has brought a very bad name to our ashram. I was consoled in a way when I went out to find that this disease is not peculiar or special to our institution. In many, many spiritual institutions, this ego sense of a sadhak is very prominent, and that is the mischief of the adversary. The adversary wants to strike at the root. He vitiates your sadhana at the very bottom. Nobody denies that you are a sadhak. Everybody admires your effort in sadhana. But when you cock your nose and look with disdain upon what they feel to be common creatures, that is the most unspiritual egoism. I remember during the early days of the ashram, we had, I won't tell his name, a person who was fairly well known in these parts, and he would always shut himself in his room. If you had to meet him, you could meet him only through his window. He would appear in the window, say a few words and withdraw. And when mother used to give blessings in the hall where there is the huge darshan photo at the moment, her seat was there. It was around about 10 o'clock in the morning. So when all used to go, naturally, he would not join the queue. He would go straight, but he would close his eyes so that he may not have to look at all these sinful people, people who are below his consciousness. And at times he would dash against some people, he would get more angry, hardly the attitude, the poise with which to approach mother. And he would go to mother and rush back. Rush, actually he would run so that you may not catch sight of him. In the beginning I was amused. So I asked my teacher, Kapali Shastriyar, why does he do that? He smiled and said, you will learn by and by. He was not given to speak ill of anybody. And it took me some time. The climax was of his sadhakhood when Sri Aurobindo passed away in 1950, December. He started saying, yes, I knew he would achieve immortality. He was not a celibate. He was not a brahmachari. He had married. I am the person who have to get that. And that went to his head so much that after 22 years of stay, he left the ashram and said, this is no good. This is not a fit place for me. And he left. Naturally, his admirers, they made much of him. Those who are against the ashram, those who are fanatical about him, they made much of him. They opened the doors. But how long can it last? After 2 or 3 years, he found it was not easy sailing. Then he started lecturing. He was a poet, he was a writer. Started lecturing on different platforms, he will speak on different strains. And he made himself cheap. And after some time, he sounded whether he could come back. But it was not allowed. Now this egoism, where it can lead you, it was a lesson. Afterwards he has come, we have met him, he is all praise for mother. But that obsession, that he knows the secret of yoga, which nobody knows. He went to Russia, he went to various countries, and wherever we go, the ochre robe is a passport for any assembly. But before he came, when he had applied for joining the ashram, Sri Aurobindo was not for it. He said, he's too ambitious. But mother was a great one for giving opportunities. She said he is a tremendous vital. He could be a good instrument. And so he was admitted. But this egohood of a sadhak ruined him. apart from ambition to be recognized, to be accepted as a great master, yogin and all that. So if we look not only here, but even around us, say in Aurobindo, the same. We are superior citizens. We are superior people. Now it is this is called elitism. Elitism is a false sense of collective superiority to the generality of men. And all those who have had it have had to pay dearly in the world. The Jews in the history of the world, very capable people, gifted people, some of them are highly spiritual. But this sense of superiority, chosen race, that infects. So in India, to a certain extent, the Brahmins, I myself a Brahmin, so I know what it is. A sense of superiority. To feel fouled if you touch somebody. They have had to pay. They are debarred from any public offices, most of the offices in states, at least in the south. And their own mission to receive knowledge, broadcast knowledge, teach knowledge, they are forsaken, and they have had to go into fields of commerce, industry. A degenerated state of affairs. So this doesn't concern us spiritually, but spiritually, this is one, as a footnote I wanted to underline, because I failed to mention it the other day, egoism of sadhaput. It's all very well to do sadhana and to feel I am doing sadhana. But how can you say that the other fellow is not doing sadhana? Appearances are very deceptive. I have known people whom I had always thought to be highly advanced, to be doing sadhana, sitting there for 4 hours, suddenly disillusioning us some day. And I have known people, realized, to my shame, people whom I had thought they are far from sadhana, suddenly revealing something which shows that they have an intimate contact. People who have the most humble exterior, who never speak, who never put on airs, who are content with what you give, who never claim. We never know what their exterior hides. To look down upon them, to feel that they are wasting their time and we alone are utilizing our time best, is unforgivable egoism. So with that, I end this prolonged discussion of egoism. Then comes the question of sex. To tell you the truth, sex is an overemphasized, an exaggerated affair, whether positively or negatively. You become obsessed with sex when you think too much of it. Mother used to say that she had never seen any people as sex conscious as the Indians. It did not mean that the Indians indulge in sex too much. But all that inhibitions, prohibitions, moral codes, all these, the fears and apprehensions, that is a negative preoccupation with sex. Second, our whole custom, tradition has associated sex with sin. Let us frankly recognize that sex is a function planted by nature in all orders of creation for our own purpose of preservation of the species, procreation. And because nature will not be denied, she has put an extra force in that impulse. There is no question of sin in sex. But religions, they have associated sex and sin so much that this sense of guilt that people carry is more harmful than sex itself. Because that sense of guilt colors the whole psychology, and everywhere you are afraid. I must not touch, I must not see. You must not see the face of a woman. You must see only the feet. The Jains, for instance, those Jain Swamis, they are prohibited from looking at the face of a woman. Well, it was a long thing, but even now, you will be amused to know that once a Jain sadhu came here to Pondicherry. He was hosted by the Jain community, which is quite strong in Pondicherry, and he wanted to have darshan of mother. So his hosts were horrified. She said, "But don't you know she is a woman?" Then he said, "But for me she is not a woman." When this was reported to mother, mother was so pleased. She said, "Bring him along." And she saw him the next morning. That was very moving. He defied the custom, he defied the convention. And his reply was so straightforward. He didn't look upon her as a woman. Now this defect in our tradition, to flee from sex. All right, you can flee from sex. To flee from the opposite sex, men from women, women from men. That has again created many difficulties, impediments in a social growth. People are obsessed from the childhood. This should not be done, that should not be done. You are giving an exaggerated importance to something which is very natural. In its own place it is natural. There are certain things which are natural in their own locations, in their own situations. But to prolong it everywhere is very unhealthy. Now with this background, that morality, sin, these are attributions by the human mind to a natural function. Anyway, in our system, the Hindu system, there was a graded stage. First the student stage, then the householder stage, then the vanaprastha, the semi-retired stage, and then the Parivrajaka, the super social stage. So, after all, so it was understood that sex had a place, sex had a time, sex had a role. Nobody confused it with spiritual requirements. In yoga, however, which is not a social affair, yoga is not a conventional affair. Yoga is a specialized technique to develop one's consciousness, to unite with one's own self, or to attain union with God, to merge in God. Now, these are the ideals broadly. We don't speak of transformation here at the moment. Now, our rishis frankly recognized that those who have not overcome sex have no business to practice yoga earnestly. They could prepare themselves as householders, as members of the society, for a stage when they would overgrow the need of sex and dedicate themselves to a still higher purpose. That meant no condemnation of the sex, but recognition that it was legitimate at a certain stage, like food, like toys, legitimate at a certain stage, but irrelevant at another stage. That is how those who are unable to practice this discipline of abstention from sex, they chose the bhakti marga, bhakti yoga, where this is not given any importance. Similarly, in Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga. But in Jnana Yoga, a stage arrives when it has to be eschewed. So note that when Mother and Sri Aurobindo say that sex has no place in our yoga, it is because sex is contrary to what we aim at. Our aim, our goal is not realization, but transformation. This ashram has been founded to practice the yoga of transformation. There are enough ashrams for practice of realization. Here, the goal is different. The process is different. Every ounce of energy has to be consecrated to the divine. From top to toe, all the levels have to be trained, directed to pour out their energies to the divine. Whether in speech, thought, feeling, passions, all are to be elevated, purified and offered. Naturally, in such an environment, sex is out of place because it dissipates the energies and generally lowers the consciousness. It interferes with the action of the psychic when it is done with desire or passion. The tantras recognize that only he can have sex who has conquered desire. A Veera is one who has gone beyond passion and desire. Legitimate question, which I often ask, then why does he need to have sex? Well, they are giving a different explanation, that it is the Ananda principle in the individual which opens the door to the cosmic Ananda principle. That's a theory. But these are incidental informations. But for us in our ashram, it is ruled out because our aim is transformation. Transformation of human consciousness into the divine consciousness. In other yogas it is not that. Only the central part merges with the divine or unites with the divine. For them it is irrelevant. But for us, where there is a holistic approach, a whole integral surrender, integral transformation, it is not allowed. Not because it is sinful, not because it is unspiritual in any way, but because it is contrary to our goal, ideal. And why preservation of sex energy is necessary? How does it contribute to the yogic growth? We will take it up next time. Those of you who have the time and facility may kindly read Sri Aurobindo's Brain of India, where he has given the whole argument a very convincing way. Brain of India. Anyway, we will do it next time.